Series beginning in 9 newspapers today being a warning of preparing for war. Look, these are pretty standard headlines at the moment, but this threat, it's all about deterrence. Is the biggest need in the short term for us, a lot of long-term projects, missiles?
Look, that's certainly one of them. I would say our ability to project power at distance and to keep our adversaries thinking twice and put their platforms at risk is a really important capability. Now, whether that's delivered by a long-range missile, a submarine, a B-52 bomber, the platform is not so important. It's the effect that is really important. And I really hope to see in the government's imminent AUKUS announcement some real acceleration of those plans. And I hope that the DSR feeds into that.
And the other thing the government has been big on is a counter-offensive or an offensive cyber team. That might be something we can actually compete in a bit better compared to the hardware stuff, right? And that's almost a bigger threat and one you're more willing to use versus the weapons.
Well, in fact, that is exactly the rationale for the Red Spice program that our government did in our final budget, a $9.9 billion upgrade to the Australian Signals Directorate to effectively double their in size, including their offensive cyber capabilities. And there's a reason why we're so public about that, because we do want to signal to our potential adversaries who are contemplating doing harm to us online that we can hit them back too. And the great thing about cyber is it's asymmetric. A much smaller country can hold a much larger country's assets at risk because we've got really exquisite cyber capabilities at ASD.
For all this talk about spending, and the former PM says we need to increase spending as well, does it mean we have to focus on sustainability of the budget, the conversation about everything, about spending in other areas and tax concessions, even if, we get bogged down in promises, and I'm not saying they're not important, but Labor's conversation around the budget matters when you get to defence stuff.
Well, it's all about priorities, Tom, and what I've observed of this government so far is they haven't said no to any of their core constituencies. They're increasing funding on childcare, on disability, on aged care, on healthcare, on so many areas at a time when interest rates are rising and the debt on interest is rising. They're going to have to spend more on defence too, and they're going to have to make some difficult choices. And so far, they've shown no ability at all to exercise any restraint on the spending front, and that's why they're coming after people's retirement savings. That's
so
why
if they were doing a bit of both, you'd be more sympathetic. If they were showing spending restraint and perhaps looking at concessions, you'd say, well, they're doing everything they can.
Well, there's certainly no evidence they're interested in spending.
Right, but if they were,
so
that would be something you'd give them a bit more credit for.
Oh, certainly I would give them credit for if they're able to identify some savings, if they're able to hold in spending, but there's no evidence of that yet.
James Paterson, thank you.
Thanks, Tom.